You are on HOA rejected. The tow hook was inches away. I am standing in my driveway at 7:30 in the morning, and Christine Turner is screaming at me about a grill cover. She is holding a printed storm photo packet in one hand and a handheld radio in the other, and she is telling me that my Weber grill, which is pushed against the side of my garage under 6 inches of fresh snow, constitutes unsightly storage and is in direct violation of Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association Co. Day. The fine is $250, due in 72 hours, and if I do not comply, she will authorize a tow of anything in my driveway that obstructs snow removal operations. I moved to Fort Collins, Colorado 3 years ago because I wanted a quiet place to work remotely as a municipal code researcher. I read city ordinances for fun. I cross-reference zoning maps like other people do crossword puzzles. The Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association sold itself as a well-managed community where curb appeal and seasonal safety were priorities, and for 2 winters that was mostly true. Then Christine Turner got elected as gate access administrator last spring, and she decided that enforcing the rules meant inventing new ones every time the temperature dropped below freezing. The stakes for me are higher than they should be. I am recovering from a torn ligament in my left ankle, and I am still in a walking boot. My mobility is limited. Shoveling takes me 3 times as long as it used to, and Christine knows it. She has been watching me limp around my driveway for the past 6 weeks, and now she is exploiting it. She waves the photo packet at me. You do not shovel to my standard, you pay to my standard. That is her line. She has said it twice already this month, once in an email and once at the mailbox when I was picking up a delivery. Now she is saying it again, louder, with plow spray misting the air behind her as a city truck rumbles past on the main road. I take a breath. The cold stings my lungs. Christine. The grill has a cover on it. It is not unsightly. It is a grill. She cuts me off. It is visible from the street. It has snow on it. That makes it an eyesore under winter appearance standards. She flips a page in her packet. You also have not cleared your walkway to the association standard width. I measured it. You are 3 inches short on the left side. That is another $100 fine. I stare at her. I shoveled that walkway yesterday. Twice. She ignores me. And your guests have been parking in the fire lane during snow route operations. That is a $75 fine per vehicle per incident. I have 3 incidents documented. She taps the radio. I can call the tow vendor right now if you want to dispute it. I do not want to dispute it. I want to go inside and drink coffee and finish a code analysis report for a client in Nebraska. But I also know that if I back down now, Christine will bury me. She has already sent me 4 violation notices this month, all of them for things that either do not exist in the actual HOA covenants, or are so vaguely written that she can interpret them however she wants. So I say, show me the rule. The actual rule. In the covenants. She smiles. It is not a nice smile. It is the smile of someone who has been waiting for this question. She pulls out another sheet from her packet. Winter Emergency Procedures, adopted at the November board meeting. Snow accumulation on any outdoor structure visible from a public right-of-way must be cleared within 24 hours of snowfall cessation. I have read the covenants. I have read them 3 times. There is no Winter Emergency Procedures section. I ask her for a copy of the November meeting minutes. She pulls the packet back. You can request them through the management company like everyone else. I already know the management company is going to take 2 weeks to respond. That is how they always operate. By then, Christine will have issued 3 more fines and possibly put a lien on my property. I also know that I have a delivery window for salt and sand this afternoon, and if I miss it, the hardware stores in town will sell out for the rest of the week. I cannot afford to stand here and argue in circles. So I say, fine, I will request the minutes. But I am not paying any fines until I see the actual adopted language. Christine steps closer. The snow crunches under her boots. Her breath makes little clouds in the cold air. She says, I will bury you in notices until you run out of printer ink. That line sticks with me. I do not know it yet, but it is going to come back to haunt her in the worst way possible. She turns and walks back toward her truck, which is parked at the curb with the engine running. I watch her go. Then I pull out my phone and start taking pictures. The grill, the walkway, the guest parking area, everything she just cited. I also notice something new. There is a small wooden stake planted in the snow at the edge of my front lawn, right where the driveway meets the grass. It has measurement markings on it, like a ruler. Christine must have put it there sometime in the last 24 hours. It is her personal snow gauge, and she is using it to document accumulation in my yard, so she can cite me for not clearing fast enough. I take a picture of that too. Then I go inside and start drafting an email to the management company. I request copies of the November board meeting minutes, the winter emergency procedures document Christine cited, and any other rules or amendments adopted in the last 6 months. I also ask for a breakdown of every fine Christine has issued to me, including the rule citations and the dates of the alleged violations. I send it at 8:15. By 8:45, I have a response from the property manager, a guy named Dale, who always sounds like he is about to fall asleep. He tells me he will pull the records and get back to me within 10 business days. 10 business days. That is 2 weeks. Christine knows this. She is counting on it. I spend the rest of the morning shoveling my walkway again, this time making sure it is exactly the width Christine claims is required, even though I still have not seen the actual rule. My ankle throbs. The walking boot makes it hard to get leverage with the shovel, and every time I twist wrong, I feel a sharp pull in the ligament. By the time I finish, it is almost noon, and I am sweating under my coat despite the cold. I go inside to change and check my email. There is a new message from Christine. It has no subject line. The body of the email says, "Violation notice issued for non-compliance with winter appearance standards. Fine total now $825. Payment due by Friday at 5. $825. She has added more fines in the 3 hours since she left my driveway. I open the attachment. It is a scan of a printed notice, formatted to look official, with the Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association logo at the top, and a list of violations below. Grill cover visible, with snow accumulation. Walkway width non-compliant. Guest parking in fire lane during snow route. Failure to remove ice dam from front gutter. Driveway snow pile encroaching on common area sightline." I read that last one twice. Driveway snow pile encroaching on common area sightline. I do not even know what that means. I have been piling my snow at the edge of my driveway, away from the street, exactly like everyone else in the neighborhood. But apparently Christine has decided that my pile is too close to something she considers a sightline. I look out my front window. My driveway is clear. My walkway is clear. The only snow pile visible is the one the city plow left at the curb when it came through this morning, and that is public property. Christine is making things up. I call my friend Eric, who works for the city planning department. He is not exactly an ally yet, but he is about to become one. I explain the situation. He listens, asks a few questions, and then tells me the most important thing I have heard all day. He says, if she is citing rules that were never properly adopted, you can request a copy of the actual board resolution and the vote record. If the rule does not exist in the official minutes, it is not enforceable. And if she altered the minutes after the meeting, that is fraud. I ask him how I prove that. He says, submit a public records request, not to the management company, to the county clerk. HOA meeting minutes are filed with the county for any association that has covenant enforcement power. If Christine changed the minutes after filing, there will be 2 versions, and that is your smoking gun. I thank him and hang up. Then I spend the next hour drafting a records request to the county clerk. I ask for all HOA board meeting minutes from the Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association for the past 12 months, plus any amendments, resolutions, or rule changes filed during that period. I also request copies of any enforcement actions logged with the county, since some HOAs are required to report liens and fines over a certain threshold. I submit the request online. The clerk's office website says it will take up to 7 business days to fulfill. That gives me a week to survive Christine's enforcement campaign without losing my house. The next morning I wake up to find a city notice taped to my front door. It is a parking citation for my truck, which is parked in my own driveway. The citation says the vehicle is obstructing snow removal operations and must be moved immediately or it will be towed. I look at my truck. It is parked exactly where it always is, on the right side of my driveway, 6 feet from the street. There is no snow removal happening. The plow has not come through since yesterday. I call the number on the citation. A dispatcher answers and tells me the citation was issued at the request of a private party who reported a snow emergency obstruction. I ask who the private party is. The dispatcher will not tell me. I ask if there is an active snow emergency in my area. The dispatcher puts me on hold, comes back 2 minutes later, and says no, there is no active snow emergency. So the citation is invalid. I ask the dispatcher to cancel it. She says she cannot do that. I have to go through the appeals process, which takes 3 weeks. 3 weeks. By then, Christine will have issued 10 more fines and probably gotten my truck towed anyway. I hang up and call Eric again. He tells me to document everything, take pictures, and file a complaint with the City Code Enforcement Office. He also tells me something else. He says, if Christine called in a fake snow emergency, that is a misuse of city resources. The city does not like that. If you can prove she made the call, they will take it seriously. I ask him how I prove that. He says, request the dispatch logs. They are public record. If Christine called it in, her name will be on the log, and you can use that to show a pattern of harassment. I write that down. Then I go outside to move my truck, because even though the citation is invalid, I do not want to give Christine another excuse to escalate. As I am backing out of the driveway, I see her standing at the end of the street with her handheld radio. She is talking to someone. I cannot hear what she is saying, but I can see her gesturing toward my house. I park my truck on the street 2 houses down, in a spot that is clearly not obstructing anything. Then I walk back to my driveway. My ankle is starting to swell again. I should not be walking this much, but I do not have a choice. If you are enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA nightmares. Christine walks over. She has a new packet of papers. She says, you moved your vehicle into a guest parking zone. That is a $75 fine. I look at the curb. There is no sign. There is no paint. There is nothing that indicates guest parking. I say, where is the guest parking sign? She says, it is in the covenants. This entire block is designated guest parking during snow route operations. Residents are not allowed to park here. I say, show me the rule. She taps her radio. I can call the tow vendor right now. I realize she is serious. She is going to call a tow truck to take my vehicle, which is legally parked on a public street, because she claims it is violating an HOA rule that I have never seen and probably does not exist. I say, do it. Call them. She lifts the radio. I watch her press the button. She says, this is Christine Turner, Snowcap Ridge Terrace Gate Access Administrator. I have a vehicle in violation at the North Guest Zone, requesting tow authorization. A voice crackles back. Copy. Truck is en route. ETA 15 minutes. I pull out my phone and start recording. Christine sees me and steps back. She says, you are not allowed to record me without consent. I say, Colorado is a one-party consent state. I can record anything I am part of. This is part of. She glares at me. Then she turns and walks away. I keep recording. 15 minutes later, a flatbed tow truck pulls up. The driver gets out. He is a big guy in a stained jacket, and he looks annoyed. He walks over and asks me which vehicle. I point to my truck. He looks at it. He looks at the curb. He says, this is a legal parking spot. I am not hooking that. Christine comes back over. She has her radio in her packet. She says, this vehicle is in violation of HOA parking restrictions during snow route operations. The driver looks at her. He says, lady, I do not enforce HOA rules. I enforce city tow codes. If the city has not tagged it, I am not taking it. Christine holds up her packet. I have documentation. This is a declared snow emergency zone. The driver pulls out his phone. He taps the screen a few times. Then he says, there is no active snow emergency in this area. I am not towing anything. He walks back to his truck. Christine yells after him, "I am calling your supervisor. You are in breach of contract." The driver does not respond. He gets in his truck and drives away. Christine turns to me. Her face is red. She is breathing hard. She says, "You think you won. You did not win. I am billing the tow attempt to your account. That is a $150 service fee." Then she walks back to her truck and drives off. I stand there in the street for a minute, holding my phone. I just watched Christine try to tow my legally parked truck using a fake snow emergency, and when the driver refused, she threatened to bill me for the attempt. This is not HOA enforcement anymore. This is harassment. I go inside and send another email to Dale at the management company. I attach the video I just recorded. I describe the fake citation, the tow attempt, and Christine's threat to bill me for the service fee. I ask for an immediate review of Christine's enforcement actions and a suspension of all fines pending investigation. Dale responds 2 hours later. He says the board will discuss the matter at the next meeting, which is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I call Eric again. He is becoming my unofficial advisor at this point. He listens to the update and then says, "You need to go to the police. What Christine did today is filing a false report. If she called in a snow emergency that does not exist, that is a crime. It wastes city resources, and it puts you at risk of losing your vehicle." I ask him if the police will actually do anything. He says, "Maybe, but you need to file the report anyway, because if this goes to court, you want a paper trail showing you tried to resolve it through official channels." So I drive to the Fort Collins police station and file a report. The officer who takes my statement is polite but skeptical. He tells me HOA disputes are usually civil matters, not criminal. I explain that Christine filed a false snow emergency report with the city dispatch. He writes that down. Then he gives me a case number and tells me someone will follow up within a week. I do not feel better. I feel like I just wasted an hour. When I get home, there's another envelope taped to my door. Inside is a new violation notice. This one says I failed to clear ice from my front steps within the required time frame, and I am being fined $300. There is also a note at the bottom, handwritten, that says, "Compliance inspection scheduled for Friday morning. Failure to remediate will result in contractor intervention at owner expense." Contractor intervention means Christine will hire someone to clear my steps and then bill me for it, probably at 3 times the normal rate. I look at my front steps. There is no ice. I salted them yesterday. They are clear. I take pictures. Then I email them to Dale with another complaint. Dale does not respond. That night I get a call from a number I do not recognize. I answer. It is a woman who identifies herself as a reporter with the local news tip line. She says someone forwarded her a complaint about aggressive HOA enforcement in the Snowcap Ridge Terrace neighborhood, and she is wondering if I want to talk. I ask her who forwarded the complaint. She will not say. I ask her what kind of documentation she needs. She says emails, violation notices, videos, anything that shows a pattern of abuse. She also tells me that if I can prove the HOA is violating state law or its own covenants, that is a story they will run. I tell her I am working on it. I tell her I submitted a records request to the county and I should have the meeting minutes by early next week. She says to call her when I have something solid. I hang up and realize I just made an ally. Her name is Maria, and she works the investigative side of the news desk. If I can give her proof that Christine altered the meeting minutes or enforced fake rules, she will put it on the air. That will put pressure on the HOA board to act, and it will make it a lot harder for Christine to keep targeting me. But first, I need the records. Friday morning, I wake up to the sound of a truck idling outside. I look out the window and see a contractor van parked in front of my house. 2 guys in safety vests are standing on my front steps with shovels and a bag of ice melt. Christine is standing on my lawn with her clipboard, directing them. I open the door. I say, "What are you doing?" Christine does not look at me. She says, "Remediation for non-compliance. You were notified." I say, "There is no ice. I cleared the steps." She points to a tiny patch of frost near the bottom step. "That is ice. That is a safety hazard. I am authorized to remediate at owner expense." The contractors start spreading ice melt. It takes them maybe 2 minutes. Then they pack up and leave. Christine hands me an invoice. The total is $475, due immediately. I do not take the invoice. I say, I am not paying this. You fabricated a violation. She drops the invoice on my steps. Non-payment will result in a lien. Then she walks away. I pick up the invoice and go inside. My hands are shaking. I am not shaking from cold. I am shaking from anger. Christine just billed me $500 for spreading 2 minutes worth of ice melt on steps that did not need it, and if I do not pay, she is going to put a lien on my house. I email Dale again. I attach a picture of the steps before the contractors arrived, showing no ice. I attach the invoice. I tell him this is extortion, and if the board does not intervene, I am going to file a complaint with the state attorney general. Dale responds an hour later. He says the board will review the matter at the next meeting. I do not wait for the meeting. I call Maria at the news tip line. I tell her what just happened. She asks if I have video. I do not, but I have pictures and the invoice. She says to send them over. She also tells me she looked into the Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association and found 3 other complaints in the last 6 months, all related to Christine Turner's enforcement actions. None of them went anywhere because the HOA board backed her up every time. I ask her if that is enough for a story. She says not yet. She needs proof that Christine is breaking the law or violating the HOA's own rules. If I can get the meeting minutes from the county and show that the rules she is enforcing were never adopted, that is a story. I tell her I should have the records by Monday. Monday morning, I check my email. There is a message from the county clerk's office. The records request has been fulfilled. I download the file. It is a scanned PDF, 238 pages of meeting minutes, resolutions, and amendments covering the last year of Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association board meetings. I start reading. The November meeting minutes are on page 147. I find the section on rule adoptions. There is no mention of winter emergency procedures. There is no mention of snow accumulation standards. There is no mention of walkway width requirements. I keep reading. On page 151, there is a note that says, Board voted to table discussion of seasonal enforcement guidelines pending legal review. Motion carried 4-1. Tabled. The winter rules Christine has been citing were never adopted. They were discussed and tabled, which means they have no legal force. I scroll back to the top of the November minutes and check the filing date. The document was filed with the county clerk on November 18th, 3 days after the meeting. Then I open the version of the minutes that Dale sent me 2 weeks ago when I first requested them. I compare the 2 versions side by side. They are different. The version Dale sent me has an entire section added at the end titled Winter Emergency Procedures, dated November 15th, with rule language that matches everything Christine has been citing. The version filed with the county clerk does not have that section. Someone added it after the fact. I take screenshots of both versions. I highlight the differences. Then I send everything to Maria at the news tip line with a note that says, Christine Turner altered the meeting minutes after they were filed with the county and has been enforcing fake rules. Maria calls me 10 minutes later. She says, this is exactly what I needed. Can you go on camera? I say yes. She says, I am coming to your house tomorrow morning with a crew. Be ready to show me everything. I hang up and sit back in my chair. My ankle is throbbing again. I have not been able to keep weight off it because I have been running around dealing with Christine's harassment for 2 weeks straight. But for the first time since this started, I feel like I have leverage. I call Eric and tell him what I found. He says, you need to bring this to the board meeting. If you present the evidence in a public meeting and force them to address it on the record, they cannot ignore it. And if Christine tries to shut you down, you will have witnesses. I check the HOA website. The next board meeting is Thursday night. That gives me 3 days to prepare. Tuesday morning, Maria shows up with a cameraman and a sound tech. She interviews me on my front porch. I show her the violation notices, the fake citation, the invoice for the contractor work, and the 2 versions of the meeting minutes. She asks me how much Christine has fined me in total. I add it up. $1,675. She asks me if I paid any of it. I say no. She asks me if Christine has threatened a lien. I say yes. She asks me why I think Christine is targeting me. I tell her about my injury, about the walking boot, about how Christine has been watching me struggle to keep up with the snow removal and using it as an excuse to pile on fines. Maria nods. She tells the cameraman to get a shot of the snow gauge stake that Christine planted in my yard. Then she thanks me and says the story will air Thursday night, the same day as the board meeting. Perfect timing. Wednesday afternoon, I get a call from Dale. He sounds nervous. He says, I need you to withdraw your complaint before the board meeting. Christine is threatening to sue the management company for defamation, and the board does not want to deal with it. I say, I am not withdrawing anything. Christine altered official documents and extorted $1,600 from me. If the board will not address it, I will take it to the state attorney general. Dale sighs. He says, you are making this very difficult. I hang up. That night I get another violation notice. This one says my driveway snow pile is encroaching on a common area drainage easement, and I am being fined $500. There is also a note that says, immediate removal required, contractor intervention authorized if non-compliant by Thursday morning. I look out the window. My driveway snow pile is exactly where it has been for 2 weeks. It is not near any drainage easement. There is no drainage easement. Christine is making things up again, and she is doing it because she knows I am going to the board meeting tomorrow, and she wants to bury me in fines before I get there. I email Dale and tell him I am not paying the fine. Then I forward the notice to Maria and tell her to add it to the story. Thursday morning, I wake up to find another contractor van parked outside. This time they are loading my driveway snow pile into the back of a dump truck. Christine is standing on the sidewalk with her radio, directing the operation. I go outside. I say, you do not have authorization to remove that snow. Christine holds up a work order, authorized by the board under Emergency Drainage Remediation Protocol. I say, there is no emergency. There is no drainage problem. She says, non-compliance with the board order is grounds for immediate lien filing. You were notified. The contractors finish loading the snow and drive away. Christine hands me another invoice. This one is for $750. I do not take it. I say, I will see you at the meeting tonight. She smiles. You do not shovel to my standard. You pay to my standard. I let her get the last word, because I wanted the last consequence. That night, I drive to the board meeting. It is held in the community center, a small building at the entrance to the neighborhood. There are maybe 15 people in the room when I arrive. Christine is sitting at the front table with 4 other board members. Dale is sitting off to the side with a laptop. I take a seat in the back. I have a folder with me. Inside are printed copies of both versions of the meeting minutes, the violation notices, the invoices, the fake citation, and the dispatch logs I finally got from the city, showing that Christine called in the snow emergency report. The meeting starts at 7. The board goes through the usual business, approving last month's minutes, discussing landscaping bids, reviewing the budget. At 7:45, the board president, a retired guy named Tom, asks if there is any new business. I stand up. I say, I have a complaint about enforcement actions taken by Christine Turner. Christine does not look at me. Tom nods. He says, you can speak during the homeowner comment period at the end of the meeting. I say, this cannot wait until the end. Christine has been issuing fines based on rules that were never adopted, and I have proof. Tom frowns. He says, that is a serious accusation. Do you have documentation? I walk to the front and hand him my folder. I say, inside you will find 2 versions of the November meeting minutes. One was filed with the county clerk on November 18th. The other was provided to me by the management company 2 weeks ago. They are different. Someone added an entire section on winter emergency procedures after the meeting, and Christine has been enforcing those fake rules ever since. The room goes silent. Tom opens the folder and starts reading. The other board members lean over to look. Christine sits very still. Her face is pale. Tom reads for about 2 minutes. Then he looks up at Christine. He says, "Did you alter the meeting minutes?" Christine says, "I clarified the language to reflect the board's intent." Tom says, "The minutes showed the discussion was tabled. There was no adoption." Christine says, "The board gave me discretion to enforce seasonal standards." Tom says, "The board gave you discretion to enforce adopted rules. If the rules were not adopted, you do not have authority to enforce them." Christine stands up. She says, "I have been protecting this community from negligent homeowners who refuse to maintain their properties during winter conditions. If this board does not back me up, I will resign." One of the other board members, a woman named Sandra, says, "Maybe that is for the best." Christine stares at her. Then she grabs her radio and her clipboard and walks out. The door slams behind her. Tom looks at me. He says, "How much has she fined you?" I say, $1,675 in fines, plus $1,225 in contractor invoices. Tom writes that down. He says, "We will refund everything. I am also going to recommend that the board vote tonight to remove Christine from her position and audit all enforcement actions she has taken in the last 6 months." I nod. I say, "There is one more thing. Christine called in a false snow emergency report to city dispatch. I have the logs. That is a misuse of city resources, and it is a crime." Tom takes the dispatch logs from my folder. He reads them. Then he says, "We will forward this to the city attorney." The board votes. 4-0, Christine is removed. 4-0, all fines and invoices issued under the fake winter rules are voided and refunded. 4-0, the board authorizes an audit of Christine's enforcement actions going back 6 months. I sit back down. The meeting continues for another 20 minutes, but I am not really listening. I am thinking about the records request that exposed contradictions and edits, about how Christine's staged photos got used against her, and about how the HOA just sent a correction email retracting the smear they allowed her to spread. When the meeting ends, Tom walks over and shakes my hand. He says, "I am sorry this happened. Christine convinced us she was protecting property values, but clearly she went way too far." I say, "She called it a snow emergency, and the city notice disproved it." Tom nods. He says, "We will make sure everyone who got fined under those fake rules gets their money back. It might take a few weeks to process, but it will happen." I thank him and leave. Outside, the air is cold and clear. I can see my breath. I get in my truck and drive home. When I pull into my driveway, I notice the snow gauge stake is gone. Christine must have pulled it out on her way out of the neighborhood. Friday morning, Maria's story airs on the local news. It is a 3-minute segment showing my interview, the 2 versions of the meeting minutes side by side, and footage of the board meeting where Christine walked out. The anchor calls it a cautionary tale about HOA overreach and unchecked enforcement power. The story ends with a note that the Snowcap Ridge Terrace Association has removed Christine Turner from the board and is refunding all fines issued under fake winter rules. My phone rings 20 minutes after the story airs. It is Eric. He says, "Congratulations. You just took down an HOA tyrant." I say, "I just wanted her to stop harassing me." He says, "You did more than that. You exposed fraud. That matters." I hang up and check my email. There is a message from Dale. It says, "Refund check will be mailed within 10 business days. Total amount $2,900. $2,900. That is everything Christine fined me, plus the contractor invoices, plus interest." I also see an email from the city attorney's office. They are opening an investigation into Christine's false snow emergency report. If they find evidence of intentional misuse of city resources, she could face criminal charges. I do not know if that will happen. I do not know if Christine will fight it or just disappear. I do not really care. She is gone from the board, her fake rules are void, and I got my money back. That is enough. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Tom. He tells me the audit is complete. Christine issued 137 violation notices in the last 6 months, and 82 of them were based on rules that were never adopted or were misapplied. The board is refunding over $40,000 to homeowners across the neighborhood. Tom also tells me that Christine resigned from the HOA entirely and moved out of the neighborhood. No one knows where she went. I say, good. Tom says, we are also revising the enforcement procedures to require board approval for any fine over $100. And we are implementing a mandatory review process for all violation notices. It should prevent this from happening again. I thank him and hang up. That afternoon, I finally get my ankle rechecked by the orthopedist. The ligament is healing, but slowly. The doctor tells me to stay off it as much as possible for another month. I tell him I will try. When I get home, I notice something. The drifting wind that kept recovering my walkway all winter has finally stopped. The temperature is rising. The snow is starting to melt. Spring is coming. I sit on my front porch and watch the sunset over the neighborhood. Somewhere in the distance, I can hear the scrape of shovels and the rumble of a plow making one last pass. The air smells like wet pavement and pine. I think about Christine's boomerang line, the one about burying me in notices until I ran out of printer ink. I think about how a records request that exposed contradictions and edits turned that threat into her downfall. I think about how the HOA sent a correction email retracting the smear, and how Christine's staged photos got used against her in the meeting. I think about the moment she called it a snow emergency, and the city notice disproved it, and how that single lie unraveled everything. And I think about the fact that I let her get the last word, because I wanted the last consequence. It worked. The snow gauge stake is gone, the fake fines are refunded, Christine is gone. The bogus snow fines are automatically refunded to everyone hit in the enforcement wave, and the board voted on the spot after the evidence was read into the minutes. I lean back in my chair and close my eyes. My ankle still hurts, but it is getting better. The winter is over, the HOA is under new management, and for the first time in 2 months, I do not have to worry about waking up to another violation notice taped to my door. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.